Robb Wilson, welcome to the conversation today.
Hey, how are you?
It is a pleasure to be with you. You're joining us from the Bay Area. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about what human capital focused leaders are missing when it comes to AI and hyper automation. Of course, we're living in the age of AI and hyper adoption of AI and the many tools and how it's being utilized in many, many ways, transforming the nature of work and what we do in our daily jobs. So I'm super excited to tap into your experience and expertise here and explore and unpack this topic together. As we get started, I wanted to share Robb's bio with everybody. Robb Wilson is a Wall Street Journal best-selling author and one of the few technology books that a bestseller, I'm going to start that over. Robb Wilson is a Wall Street Journal best-selling author of one of the few technology books that a bestseller in the business category and is visionary behind OneReach AI, the highest scoring company in Gartner's first critical capabilities for enterprise conversational AI platforms report. Robb has spent more than 2 decades applying his deep understanding of user-centric design to unlocking hyper automation. In that time, he built UX Magazine into the world's largest experience design publication while simultaneously creating effective UI, a full-service UX firm that competed with IDEO and Frog Design. And I could go on to talk about all the different awards and startups and all the many different accolades, but I'm going to pause there. Anything else, Robb, that you would like to highlight or draw attention to from your background or personal context before we dive on in?
No, that's plenty. Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining me. Why don't you start by just laying out the foundation behind OneReach AI? What are you hoping to accomplish there? And then we can dig into more conversation around hyperautomation and the human capital focused approach.
Yeah, sure. So the short answer is that I'm addicted to problem solving. I'm just, you could kind of trace my career as just checking on one problem and then raising the bar and trying another harder one and iterating. And so the problem I set out to solve was at that time really focused on, I was invited to an Oxford debate, and it was about whether technology is leaving people behind. And the two sides of the debate were interesting. The two arguments, one is, the fit of the fittest. You can't stop technology. Just you either keep up or you fall behind. And then the other is we need to regulate and slow it down and give people a chance to catch up. And I really didn't like either answer. I thought both answers were bad answers. And so, and then being so involved in both technology, but also the UX community, I thought this problem really falls squarely on the shoulders of the UX communities. Like this should be, sort of a problem number one statement for UXers. And I just became obsessed with that problem and saying, how do we not, have to either resort to one or two or the other of those options. And so that came down to trying to think about no code and how to make technology more accessible. And then that sort of led to conversation. So if you're going to create a no code tool for building applications and you don't know how long it's going to take you to pull it off, because it's a really huge challenge, and I don't think anybody's pulled it off, even though they all say they have. Yet I think we've gotten really close, and one of the main reasons is I decided, since I don't know how long this is going to take to solve, I need to solve the applications of tomorrow, not the applications of today. I need to allow people to be able to build what they're going to need to build, not what we are building. So I went into sort of a deep research mode and came up with all interfaces will be in one form or another conversational in the future. Therefore, I'm going to create a no-code platform for creating conversational experiences versus graphically based ones. So there's the, I guess, not so short, but for me, short version.
Yeah, no, that's super helpful. And I agree, that Oxford conversation that you were having, that panel, those are the types of arguments that I hear constantly. And I think they're both really important perspectives. Absolutely. but it seems like we are missing a major component when we're kind of bifurcating and thinking about them in those ways. And I just think it's more complicated and nuanced than either of those approaches really allow for. So I appreciate what you're attempting to do there at OneReach and in all the work that you've been doing. And I appreciate the UX design kind of perspective on this and approach. And, you know, I do a lot of work in the organizational leadership and people management space. And of course, AI, ChatGPT, and all the others that have really come out and been mass adopted over the last 10 plus months has freaked a lot of people out. And, you know, they're like, what's going to happen? My jobs are going to go away. You know, how am I going to be relevant? How am I going to have a career, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, I think that's the wrong takeaway from this new technology. And we are certainly in the wild, wild west of mass adoption of AI and deep machine learning tools. And there's constantly like new iterations, new releases of these tools coming out, and new tools stacking on top of the AI that's out there, that's coming out almost weekly. It seems like there's a whole new slate of offerings that can be overwhelming. It can be, you know, challenging to deal with. And I understand how it can make people really nervous about their jobs. But why is that? I mean, I think you agree with me. So like how would you frame up like how we really should be looking at these tools instead of just worrying about losing our job?
Yeah, I mean, we were recently given an award for best AI for HR, and I think the number one reason, or they said the number one reason, is because of our focus on enhancing the employee experience, that it wasn't focused like many of replacing or automating people out of a job. And I think that comes from, and that fear doesn't come from the fear of the machines as much as we like to think it is. It comes from the fear of bosses and people thinking bosses are heartless, and that the people you work for, if given an opportunity to like gut you and replace you with something cheaper, that they wouldn't hesitate. And I think there's a lot of AI that's really just a mirror to our humanity and things that we need to fix about ourselves, that has nothing to do with the technology and everything to do with introspection and saying, wow, do we want to live in a world where we don't trust each other, where like we're neighbors, we live together in this country, in this world, and yet my boss would basically, you know, put my family on the street if he could save a buck? Is that really where we live? Is that true? First of all, I don't think that's true for many companies. I think people do care about each other. And then the second part is, when anytime technology comes out, we use it to enhance. The fish grows big as the bowl. So it just means more things that we do. I can put it this way: in the customer service space, and I say even more so in HR and employee, if we could automate all the tasks done today, and that would mean that everybody doing those jobs today are out of work, you would assume that means that we are doing an almost perfect job at customer service and employee experience. So there's no more tasks to be done. We've automated all the ones we currently do, and there's no way to enhance it, like no room for improvement. We're so perfect at both of these things. And then we go around and we talk to people and say, how far from perfect are we? And they would say, in both examples, like, we are so far from perfect. Like, there's so much room for improvement. So all this really does is maybe give us that space to start actually caring about our employees and their lives. Like when did you get a get well card from your company when you called in sick versus I hope you had your shift covered? Like, how do we, can we enhance this, and can we make work more enjoyable for people? Can we make interacting with companies something you look forward to? I think dysfunction is a great example. You like, the perfect example of dysfunction is I pay my marketing team to start conversations with customers, and I pay my customer service team to get rid of those interactions. Like, I'm literally paying one side to not talk to customers and the other side to initiate conversations with prospects and customers. Like, what if every conversation we saw as an opportunity, whether with employees or customers, to enhance the relationship like it should be, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think there's just so much room to automate the way we should be doing things instead of the way we are. And if we can get into that mindset and we go, let's automate what we should be doing, there's so many things we can do. And it won't take any, like there'll be, green fields of things for humans to do in this equation.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So, and let's also, just as a reminder to everyone, automation is not new. The mass adoption of AI automation is relatively new. But we've always been automating, and we've always been, slowly but surely at times and rapidly at other times, displacing certain tasks and certain types of things that people have done. And that will always happen, as we come up with different tools and machinery and technology that can allow us to automate things that are repetitive, and we just don't need a human being to do. So that's what continues to happen. It will always happen. And I personally know that I appreciate how many of the technological tools of the past decade plus have freed up more and more of my time to do the stuff that I'm passionate about, that I feel really drives meaning and purpose in my work. And I'm able to do the more innately human elements of my work because I don't have to spend as much time doing some of the other necessary things that have to get done. But now there are tools that can help me do that. And that's how it's always been, right? So on the one hand, we can think about, will there be some displacement of certain tasks and certain responsibilities for different things? Sure, but that's always how it's been, and we're always going to be adapting. And I don't know of anyone who wants to go back to, typewriting pools, for example, or any, like, go back in time a little bit and think about how we used to do things decades ago. And most people are saying, no, we don't want to do that. Like, so overall, this is a good thing. But I really like how you're framing it up in terms of there are always areas for improvement. And why don't we improve? Why do we still continue to have issues with customer service? Why do we still continue to have issues with employee experience and all the HR internal workings of an organization? It's not rocket science usually. Like, it's fairly straightforward, simple. Do these things consistently over time and you're going to be in pretty good shape. Yet most organizations still struggle in these areas. And so magically, outsourcing these roles and tasks to AI isn't going to fix the underlying issues or problems. And it's not going to erase our need to continue to try to be creative and iterate and do cool new things in these spaces. And that's a human question, right? That's a human challenge. And having these tools will just free us up, so we spend less time running around like chickens with our heads cut off trying to put out fires all day, and we have more time, because some of the necessary functions are being completed, that we have more time to do more of the strategic and creative stuff and innovate and do and drive new directions in these areas that are going to be really important for us.
Right.
So I just see it as a win overall. Like, do we need to be cautious? Do we need to, consider the ethical, ramifications of mass adoption of AI? These are important questions. Yes, we need to be thinking about these things. But is the sky falling, or, is it the rise of the machines and, a Terminator scenario? No, we're not there. And that's kind of silly.
Yeah, I think I think one of the things to blame here is the term AI. I'm not a big fan of it, even though I use it, because it's helpful for efficiency of communication, because I can kind of group a bunch of ideas into a bucket and use two words to point at them. But really, to me, it's just about smarter machines. That's it. Machines are the things that threaten our lives, and they kill us, and they have been killing us, whether it's a car, factory equipment, you name it. We've been, there are murderers right now, bombs, guns. These are all machines. We invented them. They kill us today. Making them smarter, so a skill saw that can recognize the difference between a finger and a 2x4 is a safer machine. I think making machines smarter is a good idea in almost all cases. And in those cases where it's not, we should just talk about those cases. We shouldn't generalize it and say AI. We should say, in this specific case, with this specific machine, where we're enhancing it in this specific way, we should be careful. For example, social media, right? This is an area where we use machines. It's a big part of our lives. How we use these machines is very important, and AI as a fake human, impersonating a human being in an environment where you feel like it's safe and it's not, that's dangerous. And so we should zero in on that. But that is a social media problem, and that is a problem for social media companies. Bots and fake people have been around for a while, and AI will only make that easier for them. But that's that problem, and we should focus on that problem. But it's not AI. It's specifically people. That's fraud, right? It's people pretending.
To your point earlier, that's a human problem. That's not a technology problem, right? The technology is just the symptom of the human problem.
Right. Yeah, and we do have to deal with it, right? It's just, this is all just bringing up stuff we have to deal with. And so I think there's the optimist pessimist view. The optimist is it's bringing up problems that are long overdue that we have to address. Let's do it. We don't trust our bosses. Maybe AI can give us the data behind the decisions our bosses make. Maybe the AI can give our bosses the data behind the decisions they should make. And maybe that would create trust. And wouldn't that be nice, right? So how we use it and how we make these machines smarter is a design problem. And this is where we can all get involved. Because if you get into a world where no code and coding and technology is obscure, the book that I wrote was Invisible Machines that Josh and I wrote. And that's the idea, is if the technology hides behind, and now we all become designers of these experiences, and we start focusing less on what the machines can do and the technology behind them, but what are the experiences that we create with them, and that we can all become designers of these experiences, that becomes a world in which we can enhance our experience as employees, our experience as customers, our experience as parents, whatever. And that's a place I want to live in. That would be awesome. Do I want to make the gun smarter? Only if it makes it safer. But if it's to make the gun more dangerous, then no. But let's talk specifics.
Very good. So over generalizations aren't helpful, and you're right. When we say AI, that includes a whole like multiple buckets of things, right? And all sorts of tools and applications, and so getting specific is going to be really important. And there's a lot of fear mongering that's out there around AI, the quote unquote general bucket of AI. So we need to be very careful with that. Something else, we've referred to it. I think everything we've been talking about up to this point has been relevant to it. But are there other specific things that you think leaders might be missing when it comes to AI and hyperautomation? And how can we be more human-focused leaders in the age of, these advanced technologies that are in many ways going to reshape the way we do our work?
So to say like what should people do, you have to kind of put it in relativity. So I don't know whether people should do anything. People are moving slowly. Companies are, and from my perspective, in terms of the available technology and how slowly they're adopting it. And so that's only a problem if some portion of your industry moves faster than you.
Right.
And right now, everyone's just disoriented. So if everyone stays disoriented, there's no hurry. If you stay disoriented and other people start to figure it out, you're in trouble. I don't know how soon people are going to start to figure this out, but what I see is a big mistake, deferring to others to figure it out for you. Google comes in and says, you should just buy our AI package. Like, okay, first of all, what is AI? So they put you on some sort of road. Now you're talking about a company that's, that was falling behind itself. And then now came up with a package as a way to like catch up. So they're trying to, optics of like, oh my God, no, we're not behind. Wait a sec. And now and that will tell you how not to fall behind. And so you look at, many companies kind of coming in and saying, we're going to create an easy button, and we'll just put you on a path to AI adoption. And you don't have to understand this stuff. Just follow us. I think that's a big mistake, because if you look at OpenAI and this generative AI revolution, OpenAI was a relatively small company, but more importantly, the team inside were like it's a very small team that came up with this. Innovations are going to come from all over. They're not going to be just all centered on the big boys. Anthropic, another example, so I think just deferring your strategy to somebody who's trying to sell you a package and is really freaking out because they're losing their moat, So the moat used to be a trust for companies in some ways, and then, a way for Google and big companies to kind of protect their business. And now it's a prison. And I think companies don't understand that they're getting deeper and deeper into the prison when they follow this. The other thing is what we talked about, automating what you do instead of what you should do. I think that's the biggest. What are you doing? Like, why would you automate the way you do things? First of all, it's easier to automate the way you ought to do it, because more people, that's a use case you're going to have more in common with others than automating the way you do it, which is antiquated and unique and costs more money because you need everything customized. So that sort of systemic change, you got to start bending yourself around the way you ought to be doing things versus bending the way you ought to be doing it to the way you're doing it. So automate what you should be doing. And then the way to pull that off is start small. We talked with IDEO, and they created a bot called LotBot, which was just allowing employees to like pick the parking space before they got in there and make sure there was one available. And we could graduate that really simply into, then it should, maybe reserve a desk and then make sure your team comes in together and manage a project. And the next thing you know, we had LotBot running the whole company, or at least helping run the whole company. And I think there's a lot of truth to starting something small, internal, and then just chipping away and letting it organically grow, versus I'm going to get, Deloitte in here with some big transformation project, and we're going to automate the thing that will save us the most money, and, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. And I think I know how you'll respond to this final question, but with all these tools coming out constantly and or upgrades to the existing platforms, right? We have all these new tools coming out almost weekly. How, as a leader, do I stay on top of this? If I'm feeling just overwhelmed, if I'm feeling buried, I want to play around in the sandbox. I want to figure out what these things can do. I want to figure out use cases, but it's just like constant fire hose, right? So how do I get on top of this? How do I make any sense of all these constant developments?
Yeah, this is a big one. It's to focus those not on the developments themselves, but focus on your organization and wiring your organization for AI. It's kind of a culture of AI. And I would say that is a lot of people kind of go to the centralized approach, almost like the IT approach. I'm going to create a department that does all the AI work, and is the owners of AI, and I'll centralize it. Decentralization is really the key. And so you do need to hire a team that understands it, but a team that's capable of educating the rest of your company. And that's their goal, is to enable and to co-create with the rest of the company, because AI can probably help solve almost every big problem in every company right now, and you don't know where to start. Well, start with creating a team that can walk around and educate each department all the way from the top to the bottom on how to think about solving these problems, and come up with a framework for prioritization. That's more important than trying to wrap your head around what the latest thing is, because you solve the problem in front of you. If you're trying to fix a specific issue with, let's say you've gone remote as a company and that's causing a lot of issues, and, coming into the office, is a terrible option as a solution. You just want to be able to work more efficiently in a remote manner. Then what are the issues around remoteness? Start solving those, and then look for the technologies that are missing, that you need. You don't need to kind of stay on top of everything that's being invented. You're not going to be able to, even if you can today. That is a game you will lose in a year from now.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Rob, it has just been a real pleasure. I note the time, I need to let you go, but before we wrap things up for today, I just wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, your team, and then give us a final word on the topic for today.
Yeah, sure. Wrote the book. You can get on Amazon, Age of Invisible Machines. We do a podcast also, and you can track that with UX Magazine. And yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter as well. My final note is to just to encourage people to get excited about this from an experience standpoint, not from a technology standpoint. I want people to start thinking design-minded, and start thinking about how can we make interactions better, and how can we use AI to enhance how we interact with each other as human beings and create better connections. I think that's, that's certainly what I'd love to see.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well said. Rob, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
I encourage the audience to reach out, get connected, find out more about what Rob can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have